The view of His Majesty's government is that responsibility for the government of India should be placed upon legislatures, central and provincial, with such provisions as may be necessary to guarantee during a period of transition the observance of certain obligations and to meet other special circumstances, and also with such guarantees as are required by minorities to protect their political liberties and rights. In such statutory safeguards as may be made for meeting the needs of the transitional period, it will be a primary concern of His Majesty's government to see that the reserved powers are so framed and exercised as not to prejudice the advance of India through the new constitution to full responsibility for our own government. His Majesty's government, whilst making this declaration, is aware that some of the conditions which are essential to the working of such a constitution contemplated have not been finally settled. But it believes that as the result of the work done here, they have been brought to a point which encourages the hope that further negotiations after this declaration will be successful. And now, my friends, we go our various ways. Our 10 weeks of valuable cooperation and pleasant companionship and friendship are ended. And finally, I hope, and I trust and I pray, that by our labors together, India will possess the only thing which she now lacks, to give her the status of a dominion amongst the British Commonwealth of Nations. What she now lacks for that, the responsibility and the care, the burdens and the difficulties, but the pride and the honor of responsible self-government.
Well done.
Prime Minister, your momentous and historic words are ringing in my ears, and your message to my motherland, worded as it has been in such wise and gracious language, has so deeply touched my heart that words fail to express my feelings. I congratulate you, sir, the members of your government, as well as the members of the two great political parties in England, on your wise decision and bold statesmanship. Your name, sir, will not only be written in letters of gold, but will go down to history as the name of one who knew how to combine statesmanship with wisdom and friendship.
Before saying that I leave the chair for the last time, which I'm very sorry really to do, I must communicate to you the reply which His Majesty has sent to the message you directed me to send to him this forenoon. I have received with much pleasure the loyal message which the chairman of your conference has conveyed to me on your behalf. The time has now come for me to bid you Godspeed on the conclusion of your deliberations, which I inaugurated some 9 weeks ago. I have followed your proceedings with the closest interest and have been impressed with the dignity and earnestness with which they have been conducted, and with the unity of aim which has inspired them. It was not to be expected that in 9 short weeks, however close and intensive the labor that was crowded into them, and I know full well how exacting your labors have been, a clear-cut and final solution of the vast problems which confronted you should be found. But I am persuaded that great as is the volume of patient thought and careful work still to be done, you have opened a new chapter in the history of India. I am sure that you will, one and all, strive to secure the aid of your countrymen in carrying on the task in the same spirit that has marked your discussions. And I hopefully look forward to an outcome which will restore peace and contentment throughout India. Signed by his own hand, George R. Iles. The last time, the conference is adjourned.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we go, I suggest 3 cheers for King Emperor.
Goodbye.
God bless you.
Thank you so much for the help you've given us and the nice things you said about
And
it.
I say,
Goodbye.
I'm leaving it on. Very much for all this.